Good day, everyone, and welcome to Dr. Seed Explains YouTube channel. In our last class, we discussed systemic circulation, which has to do with blood flowing from the heart to all the cells of the body, right? A video on circulatory system as a whole. So we are going to do a brief one here. So yes, where do we start from? Okay, so now have you ever wondered what your body does when you are sleeping, when you're running, when you're walking, and all of that? Okay, so within your body lies a powerful pump system that allows for blood to flow to your cells and accounts for their survival. Okay, so what's the system? Okay, now the pump system basically is majorly concerned with the heart. The heart is that pump system that allows for blood to reach the cells of your body. Okay, so now you would know that for blood to reach the cells of the body, there's got to be a path which it flows, right? Yeah, so that tells you about blood vessels. Okay, so what do we define the circulatory system to be? In anatomy, physiology, or biology, a system is a collection of organs working together to achieve a particular function. So if you're going to be adding circulatory to that, then it's simply a collection of organs working together to ensure that blood moves from the heart to the different organs and specifically to the cells of the body. Okay, so the next thing is the components of the circulatory system. So we have three basic components of circulatory system. The first one is the heart, the second one is the blood vessels, and the third one is the blood itself. So let's start from the heart. We need to describe it. Okay, the heart is a hollow muscular organ. Get the words right. It's a hollow muscular organ that is cone shaped, right? So it's located between the two lungs within your thoracic cavity, right? Posterior to the middle mediastinum, majorly towards the left of your thoracic cavity. So I need to explain a few things here. I said it is what? Posterior to the middle mediastinum. So I need to explain. What does it mean for something to be posterior? Okay, it means to be behind, right? So it is behind the middle mediastinum. So another thing, what is the middle mediastinum? Okay, now if you check your chest, this whole chest region is what we call the thoracic cavity, because it's your chest space, right? So now within the center of your chest, right, is a bone, and that is called the breastbone. Breastbone anatomically is called the sternum. So the sternum has three parts. The first part, which is the topmost part, is called the manubrium, right? So the manubrium sternum. The second part, which is the middle part, is called your medial sternum, right? And then the last part is called the xiphoid process. So the middle medial sternum is the one that is longer, right? So behind it, that's posterior to it, and towards the right side of your body is where your heart is. Are you getting me? So basically, what else do we say? If you look at the cone, you discover that a cone has an apex and it has a base. So the heart is such that it's located such that the base is up while the apex is down, right? Okay, so how do you feel it? Because for physiologists, you need to feel some of these things. It's called palpation, right? You need to palpate, and then you need to read using your stethoscope, knowing the heartbeat. So how do you get to see that? Okay, so if I'm going to use a stethoscope, the heartbeat is heard majorly at the fifth intercostal space. I've got another thing. Intercostal space. What does it mean? Okay, within your ribs here, all the ribs you have, there are spaces between this rib and the next rib, right? So those spaces are called intercostal space. So now, if you check your second intercostal space, that's where the base of the heart is. That is from the right, your left side of your body, rather. So if you count downwards to the fifth intercostal space, that's where you get the apex of your heart. And majorly, that's where the stethoscope is placed to hear your heartbeat. Okay, so let's come back to the location. So that's basically the location of the heart between the two lungs towards the left side, right, of your thoracic cavity, posterior to the middle mediastinum. Okay, so what else do we say here? Now we have the layers of the heart. Okay, the heart, basically I call it sacs, things that cover the heart, right? Okay, the first layer of the heart is what we call the pericardium, the outermost layer. It has two things. Basically, we have a fibrous layer, and then we have your serous membrane. Fibrous, basically, it's from the word fiber, right? So it's more like it's a tissue composed of fiber. So that covers the heart, and majorly it's connected to what we call the diaphragm. The diaphragm is what separates your thoracic cage, that is your chest cavity, from your abdominal cavity, right? So it's attached basically to the diaphragm because that's where the heart is sitting. So the pericardium, which is that sac that covers the heart, allows it to sit there and not be hurt, basically. So the second layer of the heart is what we call the myocardium. And that's very important because the muscles of the heart, I told you first that it is a muscular organ, right? So the muscle of the heart are found within the myocardium. And what's the muscle of the heart? Can you ponder on that a bit? Okay, the heart, basically, the muscle of the heart is called the cardiac muscle, right? The cardiac muscle. So that's the muscle of the heart. So that's where it is found. So the last layer of the heart basically is called the innermost layer of the heart, endocardium. Okay, so aside from that, what else do we see? We have the chambers of the heart. That's very, very important. You need to know that as a physiologist, anatomist, or a biologist. What are the chambers of the heart? I consider the chambers of the heart like the rooms of the heart where blood flows, right? Blood has to stay and flow through them. So the rooms of the heart, we have 4 rooms. The heart has 4 rooms, like 4 chambers. Okay, the first 2 are called the atria. So we have 2 atria, that's the uppermost rooms, and then 2 ventricle, the downward rooms, right? Okay, so basically, so within the heart we have 4 chambers, right? And then we discussed it. So let's move straight to the next thing, which is the blood vessels. Okay, so what are the blood vessels? The heart is more like a fire station, right? And then there are roads that are linking to homes where if there's any accident, the truck will take the water and whatever is needed, right? So the pathway that which the truck follows are called the blood vessels, right? So in anatomy, blood vessels are simply the tubes, right, that allow for the flow or the passage of blood. Are you getting it? Okay, so blood vessels are, we have many blood vessels actually, but there are 3 basic kinds. The first we have the veins, the next we have the arteries, the next we have the capillaries. Okay, so what are veins basically? These are blood vessels that carry blood to the heart, right? Blood vessels that carry blood to the heart are called veins. We have superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, internal jugular vein. There are a lot of veins. Yeah, right? Okay, so let's go on. So the arteries. Arteries are blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. Arteries are blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. So if you know, it starts with an A, right? So it's away from the heart. So that's basically it. So examples of arteries. A lot of arteries. The aorta is a major artery we have, right? It's the biggest artery we have, right? So brachiocephalic arteries or trunk, there are a lot of arteries, the coeliac trunk, all of that. Exactly. So but they carry blood away from the heart. Now one thing you need to know is that majorly if you see, arteries carry oxygenated blood majorly, except for pulmonary arteries. Don't worry, I will explain that further. And then veins, they are the ones that carry the deoxygenated. By deoxygenated, I mean blood that does not have oxygen. Veins carry blood that do not have oxygen. while arteries carry blood that has oxygen. There are exceptions. The exceptions are simple. For veins, there's what we call pulmonary veins. Those ones, they carry blood that has oxygen. They carry oxygenated blood. But for pulmonary arteries, they carry a blood that has no oxygen through their arteries, right? So that's just that. So let's move on. The next one is capillaries. Okay, uh, what are capillaries? Basically, you know that we have arteries, they carry blood away from the heart, right? So let's say you take it to a cell, maybe a skin cell, right? You take it to the cell. So veins are also connected to that cell, right? So now, before it gets to the cell, it splits. The veins, they split venous, the arteries is split arterials. So they split and then they now join together. So it's more like capillaries are small arteries and veins that are joined together. Are you getting me? This whole thing beautifully can be seen under pulmonary circulation. If you actually study that, you would know. However, let me explain this. Let's say within your lungs, where you have a lot of capillaries there. So you have arteries and you have veins. So oxygen is going to jump from your lung environment and get into the capillaries, right? So once it gets into the capillaries, it's now going to flow via the pulmonary veins straight back to your heart, because it's going to oxygenate your heart, basically. So that's how it works. Okay, so let's move on. What else do we have here? We have the blood. This is a brief, so I won't be doing too much detail, but this is cool for starters, right? So now let's move on. What are the next component of your circulatory system is your blood. So what's blood basically? Have you ever thought of that? Okay, it's a liquid connective tissue, right? Basically, it's a liquid connective tissue that is regarded as the fluid of, listen carefully, it's regarded as the fluid of life, it's regarded as the fluid of health, is also regarded as the fluid of growth. Okay, so I've said three things, right? Fluid of life, what does that mean? Okay, it's a fluid of life because it carries oxygen, and oxygen is needed for survival. Without that gas, you're gone, seriously. Okay, so fluid of health, a fluid of health, what does that mean? Okay, it's a fluid of health because it fights against infections. Yes, pathogens, disease-causing organisms. Once they enter your blood, the first defense system they're going to meet is your blood cells. I'm going to tell you what the number of cells we have anyways. Okay, so aside from that, what else do we have? The next thing is the fluid of growth. Okay, it's a fluid of growth. Okay, what does that mean? The blood has the capacity to carry a hormone called growth hormone, right? So that allows for growth of cells of the body. So it's a fluid of growth, right? Okay, so why mentioning some of the things it does, we're more like, okay, you heard me say something about cells. So does it mean that blood has cells? Okay, from the definition, discover that I said it is a liquid connective tissue. It's a tissue, and in biology, a tissue is a collection of cells working together, right? So what are the cells? We have white blood cells, we have red blood cells, and we have blood platelets. The red blood cells are the ones we call erythrocytes, right? These erythrocytes contain hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is that iron pigment of blood that allows it to carry oxygen. So you see, that's very important. So the next part is your white blood cells. The white blood cells are actually called leukocytes. Leukocytes. Yes, so your white blood cells forms the natural immunity we have. So they are the ones that help to fight infections, bacteria that come into your body and all of that. They are the ones that help to do that. So the next thing is what we call the blood platelets. The blood platelets, another name for them is thrombocytes. All this, you see them in textbooks a lot more. So what do thrombocytes do? Basically, they help in blood clotting, which can save your life as a whole. So basically, that's it. So let me piece all of this together. So let's go back to the heart and then link it with the vessels and then tell a bit on circulation, right? So what happens here? So if you talk of, let's say, pulmonary circulation, because we have different kind of circulations, how blood flows through your body, right? Okay, so blood that does not have oxygen, which is called deoxygenated blood, will get into the rooms of your heart, which are called the chambers, right? Which room will it go into first? It's going to enter your right atrium, right? So from your right atrium, it's going to flow by contraction into your right ventricle, right? There's a space, there's a door that allows it, and that is called the tricuspid valve. The tricuspid valve, right? So once it gets into your right atrium, it's going to be pumped from your right ventricle, rather, it's going to be pumped directly to your lungs, right? And then there's a door that allows it anyway. It's called your pulmonary valve. Pulmonary is a word that means lungs, right? So your lung valve. So that means where is it going to? Using your IQ, it's going to the lungs, right? So it's going to follow a path, right? The path is what we call your pulmonary artery. And mind you, I told you that there is an artery that is going to carry blood that is not oxygenated. So you see, this blood is not having oxygen, so it will go to the lungs so that the lungs can oxygenate it. So from there, oxygen is going to get to the lungs. It's going to get from the lungs into the blood, right? So it's going to flow through the pulmonary veins back to the heart. Which part of the heart will it enter? If you watch the other video, you should know. Okay, it's the pulmonary, is the left atrium, right? Yes, so the left atrium, that's where it enters. Okay, so from there, of course, contraction of the atrium take it through a door into the left ventricle. That door is called the bicuspid valve. Okay, so once it gets into your left ventricle, it's going to be pumped directly to the aorta and then it flows to the cells of your body. So basically, that's a brief